Hello guys, Garuda here with another Duskhaven video. Today I want to tell you more about the Demon Hunter, one of the fun pseudo classes this excellent private server has to offer. I've previously made a guide for the Monk, Stone Warden and Melee Hunter, so check those out if you're interested. Before we get started, keep in mind that I'm by no means an expert at this spec. Treat this guide as a general introduction only. Oh, and on Duskhaven, things can change fast. New talents or abilities can be added which change how a spec plays, so keep that in mind. Anyway, let's get into it. As opposed to Blizzard's approach, on Duskhaven, pseudo classes start out as one of the original classes, and then through a stance, talent, or quest, turn into the new versions. For example, a priest can be a monk just by turning on the teachings of the monastery. The Stone Warden is just an enhancement shaman with a shield and a critical talent point, and the Demon Hunter is a rogue who did the appropriate questline at level 55. Yes, if you want to play as a Demon Hunter on Duskhaven, you'll have to level as a Night Elf or Blood Elf rogue, no other races are allowed, and then talk to the Demon Hunter in Stormwind or Orgrimmar to start a pretty short and neat questline, granting you new abilities. It's important to note here that even though you'll be wielding Glyphs and throwing around chaos damage, you're still a rogue. You can use Vanish, Sprint, Blind, and all other abilities, but most require you to turn off the Demon Hunter stances. If you so desire, you could play as a rogue for a while, then swap back to Demon Hunter. It's the same gear, although your talent choices would probably be different. Your Demon Hunter stances are on a 50-second cooldown, so you can't just toggle back and forth like a warrior or druid could. You can and should use poisons, not for the damage because that's reduced by 99%, but for the effects such as wound poisons healing reduction, anesthetic poisons enrage dispel, and mind numbing's cast time increase. And of course, if you're specced into it, uptime of your talent Savage Combat. Alright, let's go over the most important part, the Demon Hunter abilities. Chaos Strike is your main spammable ability. It causes chaos damage and generates 1 stack of fury. Also increases your crit rating by 60 or armor by 285 for 20 seconds if Metamorphosis is active, which stacks up to 3. Fury is another resource and a buff at the same time. Hit 3 stacks of fury and you'll get the Inner Demon buff, increasing damage or health by 10% for 10 seconds, and armor by 2500 for 20 seconds, depending on your stance. Blade Dance imbues your weapons with fell energy for 10 seconds, causing your auto attacks to deal extra chaos damage, which requires 1 stack of fury. Also grants 15% dodge chance or 30% extra attack speed, like Slice and Dice, when used during Metamorphosis. It costs 30 energy and has a 30-second cooldown. Keep this up as much as possible. Fell Breath channels fell energy in a cone for 4 seconds. You take 12% less damage while channeling, and you gain 10 seconds of Metamorphosis. It can be used while moving. Chaos Nova inflicts chaos damage on nearby targets, stunning them for 2.5 seconds, and reducing their damage by 5% for 5 seconds. It costs 20 energy and has a 1-minute cooldown. Fell Rush is a charge of sorts on a 12-second cooldown. It costs only 20 energy. You charge a target and explode with fell energy, dealing AoE damage. You also gain a decent buff afterwards, making your Chaos Strike deal damage twice, and your next Blade Dance to increase your health by 6% for 20 seconds. Immolation Aura, pretty obvious, you burst into flames, radiating damage around you every second, lasts 8 seconds. It costs 60 energy and has a 25-second cooldown. Glaive Throw throws your glaive, obviously, inflicting 280% of weapon damage and slowing the target for 5 seconds. It generates extra threat in tank stance. The Mythic +2 set bonus makes this hit 3 targets. Fell Infusion is your Demon Hunter DPS stance. It increases damage done by 5% and Chaos Strike heals you a bit. Demonic Tattoos, on the other hand, is your tank stance. Reduces magical damage taken by 14%, physical damage by 9%, increases your health by 24%, doubles your armor and gives you 5% dodge chance. Generate 110% more threat, and have a 6% reduced chance to get crit. Chaos Strike heals you for a small amount, and damage taken below 35% is reduced by 10%. Metamorphosis transforms you into a demon for 20 seconds. This increases your armor contribution from items by 150%, your damage by 15%, reduces the chance you'll be crit by another 6%, and reduces the duration of stun and snare by 50%. It also empowers Chaos Strike and Blade Dance. This is your big Demon Hunter cooldown. Imbued Tattoos is a pretty new tank spell on a 0.5 second cooldown. It costs 30 energy. Makes you take 5% less damage, gain 3% parry, 3% more health for 4 seconds, and it stacks up to 3 times. It's not on the GCD, can be used while stunned, and is also triggered by Fel Rush and in Metamorphosis, provided you're in tank stance. Pretty neat, but 4 seconds duration means it's a hassle to keep up. But it's definitely worth it on fights where you're ahead on threat and just need to survive, for example an enraged phase. Teleport to Council teleports you to the Black Temple class hall for Demon Hunters, where you'll find some vendors and portals to Stormwind and Orgrimmar. Double Jump is an active ability on a 3-second cooldown which lets you jump another time. Glide reduces your fall speed for 10 seconds. I suggest combining this with Double Jump on one button through a macro such as this one. And finally, Torment is a basic taunt. Apart from these Demon Hunter abilities, you also retain access to many strong rogue abilities, such as Evasion, Cloak of Shadows, Vanish, Blind, Gouge, Kick, Sprint, and when talented into it, Blade Flurry, Adrenaline Rush, Killing Spree, and so on. There's another ability called Leech Poison, which is usually just for rogues because it works off their main spells, but it doesn't cost energy, it's off the GCD, and it makes victims take 10% more bleed damage and have a 3% additional chance to be crit. Macro this to one of your abilities, so you passively apply it as much as you can. There's really no reason not to. A special mention here goes to Tricks of the Trade, which you can use in Demon Hunter stances, and which you should always use as a DPS, in my opinion. Just put the tank on focus and create a macro which puts tricks on your focus target and do it on cooldown. Not only will this help the tank out immensely with threat, if you've got the Mythic +2 set, Tricks will grant you 30 energy. Oh, and you should also create macros for abilities such as Vanish and Sprint, which remove your Demon Hunter stances and then perform the ability. All of this makes for an interesting mix, and it's pretty fun. Now, how do you put all of these things together into a coherent rotation? Chaos Strike will be your main ability, and you'll be spamming the shit out of this one for most of the time. However, only spamming Chaos Strike will yield inferior DPS, almost 50% less than if you were to use your other abilities as well. According to my testing, an ideal Demon Hunter DPS rotation would go something like this. You Fel Rush in, put up Immolation Aura, do a Fel Breath to trigger Metamorphosis, pop Blade Dance, then start spamming Chaos Strike. Once Fel Rush is 1 second away from cooldown, triple jump or strafe a bit away from the target, then Fel Rush back in and keep spamming Chaos Strike. The need for Fel Rush is debatable, but from what I've seen in damage meters, doing it every cooldown yields more damage, even on single targets, as long as you time it right and don't do it when your energy bar is full, for example. When there are multiple mobs, there's no real question about it. Do Fel Rush as much as possible. Proceed with your big cooldowns, try to align them for maximum damage, weaving them around your smaller cooldowns and timing them with Bloodlust and Heroism. As a DPS, you could also use Sinister Strike to build combo points, in case you need to kidney shot or expose armor, but Chaos Strike will almost always be the better choice. One last important thing to note, use your rogue cooldowns such as Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry before Metamorphosis, because if you do it the other way around, it'll remove Metamorphosis for some reason. As a tank, you'll want to spread out your AoE abilities if you're in a dungeon. One AoE ability per pack, because they do have longer cooldowns than say Thunderclap, Consecration or Swipe. Always Fel Rush in. This not only causes instant AoE threat on all nearby targets, it also grants you various buffs. For example, the tier 1 2-set bonus provides you with a 10% HP damage absorb shield after Fel Rush. For the first pack, use either Immolation Aura or Fel Breath, and use the other ability for the next pack. Chaos Nova whenever they're both on cooldown or you lose aggro, and so on. As opposed to most other tanks on a red core, Demon Hunters do have to tap target a bit through targets usually, if you're spreading out your AoE abilities. And you'll want to use Ghostly Strike on cooldown, Riposte if it's up, Hemorrhage if you want to boost the damage the target takes. But other than that, it's mostly Chaos Strike spam. While your energy will primarily go to Demon Hunter abilities, I think it's wise to also use Hemorrhage sometimes, not for the damage, but for the decent buff to physical damage it provides. As a tank, you'll also want to use Ghostly Strike and Riposte on cooldown, The former because of the extra dodge it provides you with, and the latter because it only costs 10 energy, does decent damage, and slows the target's attack speed by 20% for 30 seconds. For dungeons or trash pulls, I would strongly advise you to use the Mythic +2 set bonus, which makes your glaive throw hit 3 targets. It gives you an extra high threat cleave ability on a pretty low cooldown. Other than that, if you're tanking, you're going to want to save most of your cooldowns for oh shit situations. Alright, moving on to talents. For DPS, it's probably best to go almost full combat for Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry and other useful talents. And you could put a few talent points in Malice in the Assassination tree. You could also go full combat, getting 5 out of 5 Prey on the Weak, and even Killing Spree if you want another AoE ability. As a tank, your talents will probably be a mix of combat and subtlety to get the most out of tanky talents such as Deflection, 6% more parry, Precision, more hit, Endurance, lower cooldown on evasion and increases your stamina by 4%, Lightning Reflexes, 6% more dodge, 10% melee haste, Sleight of Hand, reduces the chance to get crit by 2%, Elusiveness, 30 seconds less cooldown on Cloak of Shadows, Ghostly Strike, a 20-second cooldown instant strike, which increases your dodge by 15% for 7 seconds. Heightened Senses, reduces chance to get hit by spells and ranged by 4%. Preparation, immediately finishes the cooldown on evasion and some other non-tanky abilities. Cheat Death, sort of like an Argent Defender. Once per minute, an attack that would otherwise kill you will instead reduce you to 10% of your HP, and then all damage taken will be reduced by up to 90% for 3 seconds. This is originally a PvP subtlety rogue ability, but Cheat Death is well suited for a passive Demon Hunter tank skill. All other talents are basically filler and serve little to no purpose, empowering abilities you cannot even use while in Demon Hunter stance. For major glyphs, I would say there aren't that many options. There are some that are, in my opinion, absolutely mandatory. As a DPS, Glyph of Blade Flurry, reducing its energy cost to 0, and Adrenaline Rush, increasing its duration by 5 seconds, are pretty damn good. If you're specced into it, Glyph of Killing Spree will reduce its cooldown by 45 seconds, which is pretty substantial. As a tank, 5 seconds longer evasion is great, and taking 40% less physical damage when Cloak of Shadows is up gives you another defensive cooldown. There are no required minor glyphs, but plenty of decent options. So I would say choose between Blurred Speed, Picklock, Vanish, and Safefall. They all have niche uses and are nice to have. Alright, moving on to gear. As a Demon Hunter, gearing up is pretty much the same as you'd gear a rogue. Agility, attack power, hit, expertise, and crit. And as a tank, you'll of course want stamina, dodge, and armor as well. If your Demon Hunter is a bit geared, it's pretty easy to sit around 40% dodge and close to 20% parry unbuffed. And with your cooldowns, evasion, and Cloak of Shadows, you're pretty hard to take down usually. When it comes to weapons, Demon Hunters are a bit different from other classes, and they don't really have to worry about getting weapons from raids or dungeons, as they've got their Glyphs, their artifact weapon. You get some basic blue Glyphs while doing the Demon Hunter questline, and you can upgrade them twice. The first is by doing a few Mythic +4 dungeons, or killing a boss in a Shara crater, and the second time you'll need to kill Nefarian in Blackwing Lair. The current highest level Glyphs are item level 74, which is decent but not this level at all. However, they look great, have good stats, and the main hand even provides you with a nice proc. That being said, if you're tanking, going for Thunder Fury in your offhand is definitely the way to go, and even things like Heroic Maladat from Blackwing Lair would be a viable option. I'm guessing the Glyphs will get another upgrade in Naxxramas, if not in AQ. Finally, let's go over a Demon Hunter's strengths and weaknesses. Demon Hunters can put out very strong damage, both single target and AoE. Dragons are weak to chaos damage. There are plenty of dragons in Classic, and you do mainly chaos damage, which means you're going to be destroying mobs in Blackwing Lair and so on. Keep that Tricks of the Trade on cooldown or aggro will be coming your way. Strong defensive cooldowns in Evasion, Cloak of Shadows, and Metamorphosis. You can survive wipes with appropriate use of Sprint and Vanish. You're still a rogue, so you can sneak through dungeons and then solo the bosses in Demon Hunter stance. You can also gain combo points and use well-timed kidney shots or expose armor. You have high mobility with triple jump, fell rush, and glide. You have fun spells. A Demon Hunter is visually pretty impressive. High survivability, even as a DPS. On my Demon Hunter, I feel very secure in almost every fight, because I know that whatever happens, I almost certainly have an answer for it. If the tank dies, you can turn on your demonic tattoos. Taunt the boss, evasion / cloak of shadows, tank it for a while. You can prevent wipes like no other, because most of your gear will be the same as it would be if you were actually tanking. You've got so many tools which give you plenty of control over fights. Crowd control, stunts, vanish, threat transfer, and so on. Demon Hunters can manage their threat to a large degree. You can tricks with the trait other players, feint to reduce your threat, and vanish to completely wipe it. This cannot be underestimated in classic World of Warcraft, where threat is a real thing and many bosses have mechanics revolving around it. Sounds pretty good, right? Sure, but there are some weaknesses as well. You can only be a Demon Hunter at endgame, which means you'll have to level as a rogue until 55. Most of your spells have cooldowns, which means that as a DPS, there will be plenty of times when you're mainly spamming Chaos Strike, waiting for everything else to come off cooldown. This not only is boring as hell, but also provides you with a very spiky damage output. The damage peaks significantly when everything is up, and then drops down quite a bit. As a tank, cannot keep chain pulling mobs like other tanks can. On my druid, I can keep going forever, swiping the shit out of mobs and retaining aggro on all of them. On a demon hunter, you have to be more strategic about using your AoE cooldowns, because there's no baked-in cleave spell you can spam to increase your damage on multiple mobs. Once your abilities are on cooldown, there's not much you can do if the DPS gets aggro on a few of the mobs at the same time. But that's about it. On Duskhaven, demon hunters are strong, viable, and pretty damn fun, although their DPS rotation is a bit boring at times. And as a tank, there are moments while tanking multiple mobs where you can feel the situation getting away from you. If they were to get one additional very short cooldown damage ability, preferably a cleave, or just have glaive throw hit multiple targets baseline, without the need for a lower eye level set bonus, they would be top of the line. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Are you interested in trying out a Demon Hunter on Duskhaven? Do you have any questions or remarks? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching and see you in the next video.